Hello again, Broncos country.
Really excited to chop up some Broncos with you all this week.
Bourbon, Broncos, and no BS.
Orange
It is that time, your favorite time of the week. We're not for the Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs. So grab your brews and your fantasy league. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. Rock, Lindsay, Sutton, and Judy. We are the Mile High Broncos country.
Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news. Broncos country, what is up? Kev Dan here, and welcome to Bourbon, Broncos No BS. And this week, we are not drowning our sorrows away. We are drinking in celebration of the Broncos finally getting their first win. Doesn't matter if it was the Jets, whatever, we won, and now we're looking on to New England. So, as usual, we do have some fantastic people here. We do have David. Going to introduce you first since
there you go.
Team Puffball thing going on, and now representing Team Visor.
Boo!
Jerry.
Oh, that's how this is gonna be. That's how this is gonna be. All right, that's how we're starting this. All right.
So some fantastic stuff, obviously. So Broncos win. We had some injuries, nothing too serious, thankfully. There's news around New England with Cam Newton. We're going to break that down for all of you. But I guess let's just start with this, guys. Broncos win. What does that mean to you guys moving forward? Like, do you have more confidence in this team? Do you see better, do you see themselves trusting each other more, better confidence amongst themselves? What do you think, David?
I see a team that knew that it had winning football in them finally get a win in the column, and they tried. It was down the stretch. It was tough. They really tried to figure out a couple of ways to lose the game, but in the end, they also found a way to overcome those things. And Melvin Gordon, especially, a big play there at the end. It's a group of guys who knew that they could do it and have been close a couple of times already this season and just had things not go their way. And this week, more things went for us than went against us in this one. But we took advantage of it, That
was the big thing.
Yeah, David hit on the head with the whole. We tried to not win this game towards the end, but you have the quarterback in there who didn't take a lick of any first team snaps through the whole week or through the week before that. There's his first week coming in. It was a short week, and in the prime time, and he threw a really costly pick six there towards the end of the game. So that was scary. We had a pretty good lead there, and that was scary. And yeah, a few things went for us. And I think, Kev, you mentioned it on the post-game podcast, which is out now for those of you who want to go check that out. The big piece was the discipline. And I think we had the better disciplined team, which is very good going forward. I think that looks better for us going forward, because it does mean a lot when you have a good disciplined team, especially when you're playing against a bad non-disciplined team. But now let's go play a team that's good and disciplined and see how this works out for us. But as far as the Jets go, I'm looking forward to the future. Obviously, getting a first win is the start. Obviously, we can't go 0-16 now, so that's good. But we just have to go week to week now.
Yep, that's all there is.
Yeah, so what? I couldn't hear what was going on. Hey,
Oh,
post your
boy.
comments, post your questions. I want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. So, yeah, hit that share button for us, and let's. I mean, we want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the last game? So, anyway, as you were saying, David.
Well,
whoever was talking.
I kind of finished my point and then handed it
Cool.
off to Jared.
Yeah.
Go, Jared.
Who also finished my point.
Okay, so here's my thing, and I know I talked about it on the podcast, but we didn't, as undisciplined as the Jets were, we didn't lose our cool, So I'm just reiterating the point, how cool that was.
That's also kind of what Jared finished
That's
by
exactly
talking
what
about.
I don't listen to Jared.
No,
I don't listen to Jared.
that's
Okay.
fair. Not a lot of people do.
Can we talk about how messed up Adam Gase's team is, though?
Boy, good lord.
Just for a second.
The fact
We need
that
to
I'm
talk
surprised
about-
he still has a job, and we're talking about Houston losing their coach and GM before Adam Gase loses his job. That was surprising to me, but yeah, I'm surprised he still has a job. They have a lot of faith in him apparently still.
There was a difference there between a team whose coach had the locker room still and a coach who didn't, and that shows me, Vic Fangio. We've had a lot of talk about, just internally, is he the right guy for the Broncos? Is he going to get it done? But the locker room still clearly believes in him and wants to play for him, which I don't think you can say the same with Adam Gase right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know this is a Broncos show. I just think that was worthy enough to bring up. And, if you ask me, they deserve to go 0-16, and they're not going to clean up their attitude. Like that's just who they are,
Well, but then, not only will they then trade away Sam Darnold, which will be good for his career, but then they'll get a chance to ruin Trevor Lawrence. And that's a bummer. Man, we already saw Andrew Luck's career get ruined by a subpar offensive line play for so many years, and now they finally have such a good one. It's like
Right.
There's tragedies upon tragedies here, but seeing the Jets get their hands on Lawrence would be a real bummer.
It would be.
Yeah,
It would be. Hey, Kurt, welcome to the show, man. Send us a message if you want to talk to us about hopping on or whatever. But here's a good question: if we get locked back against Miami. So I know you're talking about going 2-4, but here's the thing. We got to win one of these next couple of games, right?
Well, I mean,
obviously.
So you've got.
Is that possible? It's possible, but what do you guys think of the likelihood of us getting that position to begin with?
Well, so then here's what it's. So we're talking about going 2-4 after we presumably lose to the Patriots and then beat the Dolphins. Then you've got Chiefs, at which point you're 2-5, and then Falcons. At best case scenario, you're 3-5. Then you've got Raiders, Chargers, Saints. You've got to go 3-0 in those games if you want. That's where you've got to start winning a bunch of games.
Yeah.
If you want to get into that playoff conversation, so you've got to win all of those three. It's and it's obviously too early to talk about any of this, but that's the question that was asked. So I like it. At least we're getting those questions out there.
Yeah.
But then you've got Chiefs again after the Saints. Panthers obviously winnable game, but then Bills. Oh man, it's tough sledding.
That Josh Allen guy.
Sledding. Yeah,
We do have a really tough schedule.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
and-
Kevin's going to brag about his pick again.
right. Kevin, this is the worst thing that happened.
I'm just saying, I didn't even bring it up. I didn't even bring it up. I just said that Josh Allen guy. I mean, I was just going to talk about how good he's been playing. I wasn't even going to talk about fantasy.
He
You
gets
guys
all
broke that one up.
lucky. He backs right into
I'm
a
just
Josh
saying,
Allen in
You
his
guys lost to
year.
the auto draft team, and I didn't. Anyway, so yeah, we got a long road ahead
to
of
his
us,
point though, we are not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs,
This is very
and
true.
until we are, we're going to make that push.
I think we can turn this into a drinking game. Whenever one of us says the magical word,
We all have our catch lines.
we have a catch line. Whoever says it, we all drink to it. And Kurt, let's see. Yeah, the Titans game definitely hurt us, right?
Yeah,
I did,
yeah.
A lot.
F one to lose.
What are you going to do about it at this point? All you can do is look ahead, and I don't, except for Kansas City. Honestly, those are two more losses for us right there. I cannot see us beating Kansas City the way they're playing. And as healthy,
So here's here's another piece too is this is the NFL, and obviously we have a lot of injuries to our top guys, and we've had this debate here. We've had the debate on the podcast of, when you start losing those top guys, what's the real drop? What's the real tear drop when you're talking about the backups playing? And in the NFL, it's any given Sunday. We have the teardrop, but really there's any day that we could be real close with a lot of teams. Now, you're right, Kansas City, some of these top teams that we're playing, Kansas City, the Raiders look good, but they also had some soft spots that they were showing off. The Chargers are hit or miss. They're either really good or they're really bad. And we have a chance to go. Obviously, the Bills are a really tough team, but all their games they're winning in pretty close shootout battles. So what it really comes down to is any given Sunday and how we play against them, and a lot of it's going to come down to how the coaching staff schemes against it.
Sure.
Jared, this is a tiny little bit of a tangent, but I think it's relevant to your point about losing like top level talent. When you lose a guy like Von Miller, that affects not just the one position group. It takes your whole defense and changes what it does, because you can't just rush 4 consistently and get pressure now,
right?
Which means you have to put another guy rushing the passer and take him out of coverage. It affects every level of your defense. So, it's the same with Cortland Sutton affecting kind of every level of the offense there. It's just these ripple effects that make it a tougher time against these really premier teams who are maybe having a little bit more luck or maintain, like the Bills are having a fucking career year out of Josh Allen that nobody expected, which is elevating their entire team instead of dragging their entire team back like these injuries are.
Yeah, so another piece on that, bringing it back to the Broncos, what is not as hurt? Our offensive line, who played pretty well against the Jets. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's the Jets. We're gonna have two running backs again. We're gonna have both of our starting running backs back. Melvin Gordon had an amazing game against the Jets. Again, I take it all with a grain of salt, but our offensive line and our running game, which is our primary offensive front, is healthy, and I think we have that to look forward to when we start talking about these big games against some of these big players. Now, whether on our defense we're looking a little bit more iffy, but we're getting also better each week.
Well, and there's not a ton of skill position talent in New England, for instance, to be afraid of. Receiving backs out of the backfield are still kind of my concern against this team. Burt Head, James White, Sony Michel, I think just went down on IR, didn't he? I think he's probably out, but they're still going to have some weapons out there. They just didn't get Harris back this week too. It's been, they've got a bunch of guys out of the backfield that can do a lot of harm from that receiver position. And we're probably going to talk about it in a little bit, but there's every chance that Cam Newton plays in this game. Yeah. So that's a whole different dynamic to their offense already.
We'll cover that. I just want to say, when it comes to the offensive line, like, the Jets still had a pretty good run defense, and we were able to do some work against them, right? And the offensive line did a fantastic job of doing their part in all of it. Garrett Bowles, once again, was the highest ranked offensive player.
Is he the sixth best tackle in the league?
Sixth best tackle. And sorry, Tim Patrick was the number 1 ranked offensive player this last week. Garrett Bowles was number 2. So. That brings up some names there for sure, but I think that we definitely want to talk about what is this game going to look like, and a lot of it hinges on Cam Newton. So Jared, our resident rules expert, who who may have pulled up some of these rules beforehand,
may have
explain.
Okay. Yeah. I thought when you said may have, that was a pretty big may. Like, could have been really.
I like his reaction, huh?
Right, yeah. See, when he did that, I was like, did he look him up?
Okay, so we're talking about Cam Newton, right? That's some of the rules I was looking up. Okay, that's so right. Cam Newton tested positive, we believe Friday, I think, was the day that he tested positive. Everything that has been coming out of the news, coming out of the media, which can't be a lot because there is some things in here that between the NFL and the NFL Players Association that you can't release certain information. Obviously, it's a lot of HIPAA. It's a lot of information that you don't want to get out. It's protected information, right? So following a positive test, everybody following so far? We're good? Okay. If a player is asymptomatic, he can return once. 10 days have passed since the initial positive test, so 10 days, which still would put him. It would put him not in the list.
Not in the window to play. Yeah.
So, or 5 days have passed since the initial positive test, and the player receives 2 consecutive negative virus tests at least 24 hours apart within a 5-day period. So that meaning starting basically, if my math is right, tomorrow, he can take his first test. He can then take his second test on Thursday. If he tests negative on both those tests, he's good to play against us on Sunday.
Yep. And
that's what they're going to do. I mean, that's their number one. That's their quarterback. And honestly, if you would have watched the Kansas City game, if he was in that game, that would have been a completely different game.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which makes me nervous for our defense because I don't know if we're going to have a real good answer for stopping designed runs in that offense with this defense, especially if they tackle the way they tackled on that Sam Darnold run. That was real rough.
So now there was a good point brought up against that. At one point, Sam Darnold, I guess, faked like he was going to take a slide, right?
Yeah.
But then he didn't. So our defender, I can't remember who it was, pulled back, obviously, because you don't want to hit the quarterback when he's in the process of starting to slide.
Yeah.
But
I think it was Kareem Jackson.
Yeah. So, I mean, Justin Simmons, he kind of got past Justin Simmons to begin with, which, whatever, he still had a fairly solid game. But it was more of, hey, can you really allow a quarterback to fake slide? Is this going to be a rule change? Because the thing with me is, how would you enforce that? How would you define when a quarterback starts to slide? So it was just one of those things that, it looked nasty. All of us were just screaming at the TV, but Kareem Jackson had to pull back. He had to and let him go by.
Yeah, I agree with you. The fake slide thing, that was rough. And you could just tell the whole defense wasn't either ready for him to run or just saw him coming up and it was just expecting him to slide. So they kind of were like, they weren't going head first at him, which was, you can't say the same for the Jets. But, and what ended up happening was, they're not going full speed towards the quarterback because they want to protect the quarterback. And this is something that's been debated since this rule came into effect. Every single year there's something new that protects the quarterback because who makes the money? The quarterback makes the money. So the NFL wants to protect those quarterbacks so that we're not having, Rippin versus Stidham in a game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the point is to bring that money because people are going to watch these high caliber quarterbacks. So this has been a debate that's been happening for years, and what that ends up being for quarterbacks, and especially guys like when you're talking about guys like that are quick on their feet, quick like Jackson, Kyler Murray. Even Pat Mahomes, once they get a hold of this and they're like, oh shoot, I could fake a slide real quick, just kind of give them like a real fake slide. They can't hit me. It brings up a different conversation. But this is a conversation that's been happening for a while, and I think now the NFL is actually going to have to look into it.
Well,
because let's not forget, like Sam Darnold's not exactly a super athletic guy.
Right. Yeah.
But did it change the outcome of a game? It seems like these rule changes are only really enacted or really considered when it has an impact on a big important game that caused the other team to lose, like the pass interference rule, So unless something like that happens in, playoff qualifying game or somewhere in the playoffs, they're going to be like, whatever. And then they're going to say, why haven't we addressed this yet? Kind of thing,
Right.
It was a primetime game, so we have that going for us. I guess towards if you want that rule to be enacted or to looked at. But
I just don't think it's possible.
We got.
Like at what point
it was Jets versus Broncos. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
So it was interesting for sure. So that's when it comes to Cam Newton running around, like, what do you do? Do you focus on containing him and let him throw the ball and test our secondary, or do you trust our, front lines there to let him run around but stop him? So it's double-edged sword. And look, it's Bill Belichick, so he's going to come out with a solid game plan. Looking at what we do and who we are, it's going to be interesting to see how Fangio comes up with a defensive plan, though, too.
Yeah. And so they're what? They're 9th on offense in PFF grade, and 7th on defense. It's tough just because I think there are good matchups in place for us on defense. I don't like our offensive line against this defensive line, though. Their offensive line against this defensive line. That to me is not a great matchup. Maybe there's guys there that you can exploit. They're decently, Isaiah Wynn over at left tackle is playing really well. The right tackle's not playing as well. There's a favorable matchup there if you can get Bradley Chubb lined up there. And we saw Bradley Chubb rush from a number of different positions against the Jets.
Yeah,
and
I like seeing some of the rushes that we put together with like some of the stunts. Like you saw Bradley Chubb coming up from the middle, which was nice.
Yeah. Josie Jewell was in on a couple of sacks just because he got there. The coverage held up and he got there. But good, all credit to him. I think he was one of our highest graded players last week. Was Josie Jewell on defense? That's what I mean. It's one of those things where you kind of say "LOL Jets," but still.
Josie Jewell is number one. Yep.
Shout out to myself, who predicted that we would see Devontae Bosby in his first snaps on defense in the Team Trends article from last week. Check those out at BroncosOrangeWeekly.com. We did see him. And he kind of looked like the guy from the Jacksonville game, or was the Green Bay game? It was the Green Bay game. That was really, really impressive. Batting down balls in a good position, making good reads on plays, keeping the ball in front of him. I think we've probably seen the last of undrafted rookie Essang Bassey for a little while.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Bosby played really well. Mm-hmm. You're still going to see him. He's going to come in there on those nickel dime packages,
sure. But it allows and I think it allows Fangio to do what he's wanted to do with Bryce Callahan this whole time, which is put him in the slot and have two outside corners like Boudier would have been if he hadn't been injured. But you've got Bosby in there and Ojemudia on the other side, which just opens up more for the defense.
Also, we were talking about Ojemudia has gotten a lot of flack for the way that he's been playing as a rookie, and if you look at some of these other rookie numbers, not just rookie numbers for corners, but corner numbers in general, look at the scores of some of these games. These games are high-scoring games. The high-caliber offenses are real, and honestly, Ojemudia is playing as one of the better cornerbacks in the league.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, and Pro Football Focus, they got him down, but think about, we were talking about take away the Pittsburgh push-off touchdown, right? The big touchdown that he let up, everyone was all mad at him about. And he's one of the top corners of the league. And he was playing very well against the Jets. Obviously, again, grain of salt with everything we say against the Jets. But, you see a lot of good flashes in him, and he's just getting better each and every week, which I think is, for us, at this point, that's the most we can ask for.
Yeah. Well, and you imagine what he's going to be like next year, that. You give him an entire offseason, a legit offseason after learning what he's learned this year, and he's already improved this much through 4 weeks. I mean, that guy's going to be someone just completely out of this world when it comes to his gameplay. Randy and Robert, how are you guys doing? Glad you're here. What the hell's going on, man? We're just drinking, talking Broncos.
Talking about a win.
Randy,
finally.
you say you wish you knew football. You're a Broncos fan, so you're a step ahead of a lot of other fan bases already.
You are.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. How about Bradley Chubb? We haven't talked about him yet. Holy crap. He came out of the woodworks last Thursday.
Well, we kind of did talk about him just a minute ago, but I mean,
I'm trying to do Matt's job too.
You mentioned him, but no, you're right. I mean, Bradley Chubb was playing very well. He's back to what we were expecting him to play. He's kind of stepping up in that Von Miller role, that number one rusher role. And this is the one spot, and we talked about it on both the pregame podcast and here last week. This is the one spot that the New York Jets actually had a very strong team, was their tackles. Their tackles were a very strong group, and he still played very well against them. And like I said, where they moved him and letting him do a lot of different things definitely opened up the play field for the defense. And I like that a lot. And I think we're going to see more of him going forward, and I think see more of those like different play looks on defense.
So to me, it looked like he was in his natural form. He wasn't playing timid. It looked like he was just going out there and doing his thing. What we've seen from him in the past. So I think what I'm looking forward to is just seeing him play at that level from now on. He trusts his body recovering from that injury. He trusts his gameplay. And I don't see why there's any reason why he would go backwards from that.
Well, and we criticized him a little bit for opening week. I criticized. You're right.
Understood where he's coming from.
Right. We were wondering what was happening with him, and we really shouldn't have been, because they told us straight from the off, he's not he's not 100%. He's not all the way ready to go yet. And
he's close, yeah.
we thought maybe we were going to see a little bit more of a snap count for him than we did, and maybe that led us to believe, all right, well, he's ready to go. Like, he's good if he's going to be out there the whole time. And he just wasn't, trusting that leg yet. He wasn't sure of what his body could do yet. And I think he's getting more and more sure every week. And, it helps. A big asterisk because the Jets lost at least one starting tackle in this game. But, I mean, that Mekhi Becton thing where they had him out and then put him in, it was ridiculous. This isn't a Jets show. But, yeah, so still, it was a good game to get some confidence back for an injured knee that you're trying to rehab back to 100%, and it bodes well for him going forward for sure.
I did fix it.
This is why we won. He did, in fact, fix it.
I literally fixed it last time. You guys got mad at me. It was flipped the other way, and then I flipped it up, and then I can't do it sideways. The whole point is to cover the mirror.
I'm just saying, if we lose this weekend, it's because your flag's in the wrong position.
All right, and then I'll freaking flip it again.
Good. Roberts. Yeah, Brandon McManus. I mean, we had a couple good special teams plays there from Spencer, and the McManus was just looking, like we had just given him a big contract, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. He cashed in some field goals for us. That was nice.
And long field goals too. I mean, he was kicking them
50
very accurate from long. Yeah, and
yeah,
that's probably watching the Atlanta game. They're on their second kicker of the year already, and that's the one place that we can actually look at and be like, you know what? As long as we get within a pretty decent field goal range and we have a pretty confidence with the kicker going out, I couldn't imagine rooting for a team when we have a kicker go out and be like, I don't know, we have about a 50% chance of making this along the 20-yard line. Yeah, that would be rough.
Oh, man.
So Robert's asking if we can pull off that win. And what I'm going to say is listen to the pregame podcast. There's also some things we got to find out, right? Is Cam Newton officially going to play? That's going to change a lot of things. Maybe not that many, but in terms of how we approach it, for sure, right? So I think after we get some, more news as the week goes on, we're going to be able to better call that. But you guys have any other ideas?
Right. And who's going to be playing for Denver at quarterback?
True.
Is Drew Lock going to be able to come back from injury and play in this game? He didn't practice today. Consensus in this room is no. But
this room too.
Right.
I don't have.
No. Yeah.
Kevin.
But
David had the worst joke last week. I'm trying to win that award this week.
You're pressing. Isn't that what they say about NFL players? You're pressing, buddy. You got to just let the play come to you. Yeah, absolutely. I give him as much time to come back from a throwing shoulder injury as you can, especially when the alternative is rush him back against a Bill Belichick defense.
Right.
Nah. Hard pass. Is that what the kids say? Hard pass?
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Soft pass.
Yep.
Soft pass.
Lit, fam.
No.
Lit.
Okay.
Lit.
We're moving on.
We're moving on. But
I don't think
post some comments, post some questions, hit that share button for us. Go to BroncosOrangeWeekly.com for some articles and find where our latest show is or our latest podcast is. You guys are awesome. Glad you're watching us tonight. So
yeah, yeet us out on all of your social medias.
All of the media.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's how you get. Jared, continue.
Medias.
We are way too old for this shit. So Drew Lock's not Drew Lock. I don't think he's gonna be playing this week. Honestly, Brett Rippon played decent. There's a couple miscues in throws that he had that we would like to take back, but I honestly agree with you, Robert. I think what's going to end up happening is he's going to come back from this injury and be like, I'm not invincible. I'm going to have to protect myself when I'm taking some of these hits. Hopefully he doesn't come back and gets scared. That's the last thing we want, is for him to come back and not be able to step up into the pocket, which leading into Rippon, I think he did a really good job of. I mean, he took some licks. Yeah, he took some late licks too, which again, going back to how shitty the Jets defense was being to him, he was stepping up in the pocket and getting hit and throwing super accurate throws, which
was it 3 roughing the passers?
3 or 4.
At the end. I think he had a total. I think it was 4.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was 6 total personal
Yeah.
fouls, but I can't. Yeah,
I remember watching one of the middle linebackers rushed him and was like hit him super late and hit him hard, and I was like, I was freaking out in my living room. I'm like freaking out, like, are you kidding me?
Well,
what
you
a
can
dirty
Rippin,
play.
You can even see on Rippon's face, like at the end there, like the camera's right above him, and he's just like, really?
Yeah, he's like,
he's like, really? Like he's not surprised.
Welcome to the league, I guess, huh?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, we're gonna do this, okay. But yeah, being able to just he's got to learn to protect himself. Otherwise, he's going to be in this position again soon. Manning knew his age. I think obviously Drew Lock knows he can move around. Manning just, he couldn't, so he had to go down when needed. Drew Lock, I think, at the end of the day, needs to find that balance, right? He's not going to pull a Flacco and stand there in place, but at some point, you either got to throw the ball away or just go down,
Yeah, Peyton Manning couldn't throw those balls away because he only had so much throw left in that arm, and he couldn't waste it on throwaways. You gotta take the sack and then live to fight another day if you're 2015 Peyton Manning. But yeah, no, and that goes for Rippon too. Get that ball out of bounds, buddy. You make sure you work on that.
Mistake he learned. Okay?
Yeah,
I got to give him credit. That was a great defensive play. That was a great interception. Like that toe drag and everything. It was just okay. I hated it, but I got to give him credit for it.
Yeah.
But if you saw Rippon throw the ball out of the, throw it away the next time, like it was gone.
It was out.
Like I thought it was gonna like throw it over the stadium like a Pat Mahomes. Like he was just like, nope.
Well, good. Then he learned. Yeah.
Let's see. We did lose Noah Fant. I think they put him on IR.
Yes.
Short term.
No, they didn't. He's week to week. They didn't want to put him on IR.
Yeah.
So they, I guess, expect him back within the next 3 weeks. But they've got the bye week in there, so there's really no reason to put him on IR, even if you think he's going to be out for 3 weeks right now.
Yeah. I don't think we're pulling anybody off IR though right now. I don't think we're ready for that.
Philip Lindsay's coming back, but I don't think he was.
He
on
wasn't
IR.
No, he was week to week.
Yep.
Yeah, and then they're saying it was an ankle sprain, nothing too serious. So I'd expect him to see him back.
Hopefully.
Right.
I was surprised honestly on Friday when they said after the game they were like, yeah, he's likely to miss the next game. I was surprised to hear that, knowing that there was like a week and a half between the next game, like kind of counting him out already. So whatever it is, it must be pretty serious on the ankle. Like we're gonna have to ask Jason this question, our resident athletic trainer here, so to find out what that really meant, because I was confused.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, no, hard to put it any other way, Jared. Agreed.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Speaking of agreed, let's talk about the offense for the Broncos last week and who had just a hell of a day other than Melvin Gordon. There was one person specifically that I feel like somebody here said was going to have a great day and has been advocating for this person for so long.
It doesn't matter if you thought that this was going to be a low-scoring game. Your whatever is invalid. But continue.
What I did think it was going to be a low. When was the last time the Denver Broncos put up 37 points?
See, that's how I knew this was going to be the day. This is going to be the day.
When was the last time the Denver Broncos put up 37 points?
Been a minute.
Like who would have expected that from a backup undrafted rookie second year quarterback?
Down. You didn't
put your hand. You didn't say 37. You said 20 something. Get out of here. So back to my point. David, you got anything to say about that? You're just gonna...
So here's the thing. Jared's gone.
I want to hear it.
A little bit rough on one Timothy Patrick.
Yes.
And you know what? He has really come out and impressed me this season.
Good.
Portland Sutton down. He's been a reliable target, kind of no matter who's been in at quarterback. Jeff Driscoll's been able to get him the ball. Drew Lock's been able to get him the ball. We saw this week Brett Rippon be able to get him the ball, and at a certain point, it's because he's available to get the ball. Put your pinky in there. Like, God, your smugness is making this so much less enjoyable. Oh, man.
Yes, I was right. I called it.
Yes, that's what I feel.
You cannot. You don't get to coattail on this, Kevin. You said nothing.
No, I was
You
impersonating
said
Jared there. I'm just impersonating Jared.
I see. Anyway, big ups to to Tim Patrick doing his best Cortland Sutton impressions this year. Jerry Jeudy has been playing really, really well. As a rookie, he's really transitioned very well into this league, and he mossed the hell out of Pierre Desir, and that was super cool. But Tim Patrick has just been a reliable option no matter what. And there are a lot of teams in the NFL right now, including the Jets, who wish they had a guy like Tim Patrick and don't have him. And he's a depth position player for us. So it speaks to, one area of the team where you have really good depth, and one we've got to keep. I think do we have him for next season? Is that a thing that happened? Did he get one of those contracts that I can't remember? Tim Patrick?
Patrick? I don't remember. I don't think so.
I don't know. Mike Purcell got a contract today.
Yeah, Purcell did. And, if Tim Patrick hasn't, then we need to.
I don't think he has. I think he's up on a contract. Because that was a big debate that we had in the offseason on some of these on some of these wide receivers, and can they actually do anything? Can they get open? Can they be the targets? And with injuries that we've had going down, obviously we have Jerry Jeudy on the other side. A lot of people are really worried about him, so it kind of opened up things for Patrick. But I mean, he had a hell of a game. And sometimes it's just about getting open. And when you have young guys, young quarterbacks back there, when you can get open, you're going to get the ball. And that's what we saw with Tim Patrick this last week. And that's why I'm excited for him. I've been excited for him for the last couple of years. And I really think he's going to be able to take that step forward. And in the absence of Cortland Sutton, he's really stepped up as a good alternative.
He played for Utah, right?
Yeah, he went to Utah, yeah.
So was that Mountain West?
Mm-hmm.
No.
All right. And I don't know. Yeah,
no, is Utah not Mountain West? Is it Big?
The Big 12?
Is that Big 12? I don't know.
I mean, either way.
It's a Tanner question. I don't know.
That is a Tanner question.
Either way, the defenses are not impressive. So I'm not going to get into it. I was wrong, Tim Patrick, and Jared was right. But I also want to say, just to get this taste out of my mouth, that the puffball hat that Jared sent me, which I wore during the game, was our first win of the season. So it makes it a lucky hat. So if Jared roots against Team Puffball, he's rooting against the winning hat. Yep. So put your pinky down and think about your choices carefully. That's all I'm saying.
This is fantastic.
Oh, man.
Okay, so we get Philip Lindsay back this week. And I don't want to stomp on your toes for the pregame podcast at all. But
you've already done it once, so might as well.
I have already done it once. Well, basically, I'm trying to give you guys ideas for the pregame podcast. But yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. But Philip Lindsay coming back. What's that going to do for us? Other than the obvious of now we have two backs, but against a Bill Belichick defense,
Well, it gives, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier in reverse, when big name injuries take away from what you can do on offense or on defense. Now, a big name addition adds to what you can do. You can do a two-back set with Gordon and Lindsay at the same time. You can do one or both of those guys split out as wideouts. You can move them all over the formation. There's a lot of mismatches you can create against a slower linebacker or safety again with these guys. It just depends on what Pat Shurmur can scheme up and what they have. They've got extra time with the short week that they just played last week. Now they've got a long week to prepare for the Patriots and have some of these things dialed up on offense. But it's up to the guys now to execute it if they do dial it up. It's whoever's playing quarterback, you've got to know what those looks are and what you're getting when you put yourself in those looks in order to be successful.
So I think the biggest advantage here and the biggest thing you got to think about is we're going to be a run-first offense. This defense is very good. This defensive backfield is very good. So it's going to be very tough to run. So we're going to have to run first. Having fresh legs in the backfield is going to be a key point, especially if we're going to try to control the clock. We want this to be a low-scoring game, because if it's a high-scoring game, again, I don't think we're scoring 37 points again, Kev. You can get mad at me all you want, but
I agree.
I'm just saying I don't think we're going to be able to throw 37 points up, so we're going to need to keep them from scoring more than probably 25 points. And if we could do that, I mean, that's just clock control. In order to clock control, you need to run the ball. In order to run the ball, you need to have people with fresh legs back there so they're not getting tired and only getting a yard and a half. So I think that's what's going to be the biggest key to this. I don't know if you're going to see either one of them really go off in this game, but I hope that the scheme is to just get the down and distance, get 3 downs, first down, 3 downs, first down, 3 downs, first down, and then we can drive the ball, get a couple field goals, get a touchdown here and there, and then we're in this game all of a sudden. And now we're talking about actually being competitive against New England, and I think that's what they're going to look forward to.
Well, you're going to want the defense to stay as rested as possible. So when they go out, because you get a couple 3-and-outs in a row, that's when Cam Newton's going to get in the role. They're going to start demolishing us really quickly, right? So the potential for this game to get out of hand, I think, is not really high, but
it's there.
It's there. It's not like normal. If you go 3 and out a couple times, it's not that big of a deal. Like you can still recover from that. This one, you just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's got you've got to see some aggression in those instances where you've got to see your team go for fourth downs in maybe slightly risky spots. You've got like in goal to go situations, you've got to maybe think about that as 4-down territory, especially if your run game's working, especially if you're able to get 4 to 6 yards per carry reliably. You've got to be able to lean on those guys and just grind up because you guys are right. The defensive backfield for the Patriots is pretty impressive. Their third year player, J.C. Jackson, is their best corner according to Pro Football Focus, and that's a defense that has Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore that we're talking about. And he's not even the best corner on their team right now. That's a tough assignment for any quarterback. I don't care if it's Drew Lock or Brett Rippon starting. Either one of those guys, you're going to have a tough time.
Yeah. More questions about the defense there?
Yes, for the most part. I mean, I'd say I think they're like 60-40. They do a pretty good job of switching it up. And again, I think that's the Bill Belichick defense of just being very disciplined and understanding down and distance and what they need to be doing and what their coverage is. But yeah, I think they play a lot of zone, and I think it's a very, very, very strict zone. What I do know is that they don't rush often. And I was watching the Kansas City game. And this is going to get a little bit into the pregame podcast. So if you guys want to hear more about this, make sure you're downloading that. But when I was watching the Kansas City game, that I noticed they weren't rushing a lot. They were sending 4 and letting Patrick Mahomes try to find somebody open when you're dropping the rest of the backfield. So
but you know what I noticed?
I don't know if that's going to happen against us because we don't have Patrick Mahomes to be able to take off or whatever the case is. They might have been spying him. We're going to have a young guy back there. They might be bringing the house like the last couple teams have on us because it's been working, and that might be a different play style. But that's going to be interesting to watch for this upcoming game.
I would not be surprised if they do just the opposite, Jared. If they only bring 3 initially and see what kind of pressure they get there, because they were getting home with 4 guys.
They were.
At least in the first and second quarters, they were getting pressure on Mahomes with just 4 guys. And I think they may look at this offensive line and say, well, let's rush 3 first and see if we can get pressure rushing 3. Because if we can drop 8 into coverage and still get pressure on this, on presumably Brett Rippon, he's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw some bad balls into some bad areas. And I don't know that he's going to be able to figure out a Bill Belichick back end that is dropping 8 people into coverage. Like
any back end that's dropping 8 people into coverage for a young quarterback. Let's be honest.
That's a big tall ask. So that would kind of be what I would anticipate first. Rush 3 or 4 and see what the quarterback can make of that before you start even think about bringing more guys.
Yeah. It sounds like they have a lot of faith in their defensive line to be able to get pressure when they need to when they want to drop 7 or drop 8.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do we think? Play action, Robert says. We'll see. You've got to. It's statistically not true that you have to establish a run game to have successful play action. My concern more is just can this offensive line block play action plays because they haven't, I don't think, shown a great propensity for it this season. No, especially Lloyd Cushenberry, who is having a real rough transition into the NFL. And it's not, I don't think, his fault, and I think he's going to be fine. But right now, it's tough. It's baptism by fire for him, and he's under fire a lot. So these long developing pass plays, I think, are a little bit not what this offense needs right now to be successful in the passing game.
So, I mean, he's definitely coming along, right? And that's just one guy that we want to keep watching for. He ranked worst on Pro Football Focus out of all of our offensive players there. But I think that he shows enough promise.
And the worst center in the league. Yeah.
He's also the worst center in the league.
Didn't hear that one.
But
I mean, what can you expect from a rookie like that?
Yeah, it's tough. In a third-round rookie, probably one of the most pro-ready of the starting centers, but, that speaks to the depth of the center class, I think, this year more than anything. Again, I think he'll be fine. He's got a good coach. He's got good teammates around him. I think he probably just needs to get a little more NFL strength first and foremost, but he'll get there. And yeah, like Robert says, big time credit to Garrett Bowles, who has definitely improved. He's as we said a little bit earlier, the fifth best tackle in the NFL according to
through 4 games.
Focus. Yeah, absolutely. And DeMar Dotson turned in a 65 grade at right tackle, which not great but serviceable and better than Elijah Wilkinson was playing.
Yeah,
right. So maybe the outside rush will be contained. Like Chase Winovich. Again, we're getting a little bit into the pregame podcast here, but yeah. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this: Is it too soon to tell if this is the new Garrett Bowles? Like, he's slowly winning me over, but I'm still hesitant, saying I don't know.
And a big part of what gives me pause is not just how few holding penalties are getting called, but how few penalties are getting called in general this season. And a big part of that is how few holding penalties are getting called. But I can't quite get on the everything is good, sign him to an extension right now. Not yet.
Yeah, I'm not trying to give him the big paycheck that because we didn't pick up his 5th-year option. I'm not trying to give him the big paycheck, but there are 4 games, and you're talking about you're not going up against scrubs in these 4 games. Like these guys that he's been going up against have been real tough and real proven edge rushers, and he's been holding his own. And he's been doing well in both the pass, right? Pittsburgh, yep. His pass block rate's an 89. His run block's a 79. Like he's doing well in both areas. I think he's turned the corner. I think that's Mike Munchak has really shown that he can take him, coach him up, and get him where he wants him to. And I think this is what he's at. This is where he's at. And I'd like to see this go throughout the rest of the season. I would, but I'm not as hesitant as you guys. I think that he's turned a corner. Now I'm not ready to give him all of our money to pick up his 5th year, but I think this is the new Bowles. I think this is new Garrett Bowles.
It's too late to pick up his 5th year now. But that one thing tells me, and it's Broncos luck, tells me that he probably has turned a corner, because it would be just Broncos luck that they declined his 5th-year option in the year that he turns it around, and is now going to get insane money because you have to wait until the end of the season to see if it's a full year's worth of production or not. Yeah. And that's just the way it's going to go.
We're so lucky, guys.
Isn't it great?
Man.
Enough our salary cap is already tied up in the IR. It's just you know what? It could always be worse. It could always be worse. You could be the 0-4 Houston Texans, who are spending $255 million on their payroll this season, and just fired their head coach /GM.
They fired. He was their GM, their scouting coordinator, their head coach. He was their popcorn maker. He was everything for that team. Yeah. He was just good Lord.
It was the popcorn that really put him over the edge.
It's the popcorn.
You make shitty
Not
corn.
Enough butter.
No, right.
You make shitty corn. Get out of here.
He didn't burn it, and he should know that owner Cal McNair likes the popcorn burned. He's been told every day, and he just didn't pick that up. Couldn't pick it up.
That's too funny.
He was worse at picking that up than Royce Freeman at a blitz.
If you're the Jets, do you go get him? Do you cut Adam Gase
for Bill O'Brien?
I mean, what at this point the Jets I think are stupid enough to do it.
Maybe.
I would not be surprised because it's the Jets.
I don't know. It feels to me like people are going to stay away from Bill O'Brien for a little while. Like, he blew.
I would
that
just
job.
find it so funny if I woke up tomorrow morning and I saw that Adam Gase is gone, Bill O'Brien's in, and I'm just
Because, I mean, when you see
and then
this
he
going
immediately
forward,
trades
stars,
Sam Donald and everybody else away just to
Well,
get
that's
fired
it.
4 games into next season.
yeah,
right? Like, when you
see the country move around.
when you're saying to yourself, Bill O'Brien, the GM, why are you doing these things as Bill O'Brien, the head coach? It's just like, how do you explain this to yourself, much less to somebody else who's going to hire you in an interview? Like, how do you explain to coach you that I'm going to trade away DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, and then we're going to go win game? Like, and then when you, as the head coach, are 0-4, and you want to blame the GM because he traded away your best players, what do you do then?
What you can't do.
You've got nothing.
Does he just stand in front of a mirror and like yell at himself most of the day? And like, no, you suck, GM. And like, oh, I don't suck. I'm the coach. Yeah, it's all your fault.
I don't know if he has the dignity to yell anymore. I think he maybe just sobs, which, yeah.
That'd be
I
fantastic.
should Photoshop that. That would be awesome on the Step Brothers. I think that's funny.
Yeah.
The Step Brothers with the 2 of them, that'd be perfect. I mean, it's only a matter of time before.
No, the owner stepped
he has
in
to
and
fire
relieved,
himself.
the owner stepped in and relieved them both simultaneously. It was,
Or the owner stepped in watching him in front of the mirror, be like, no, you're fired. No, you're fired. And be like, nah, you're gone,
I'm gonna
man.
fix this. Both of you are fired.
gone.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked way too much time about Bill O'Brien and Adam Gase.
We've gone to the Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien.
Funny shit.
Oh man. Okay, so what are we looking for now? We have a win under our belt. We're 1-3. We talked about we're probably not a huge playoff push. We probably don't have a great playoff push. Looking at our schedule, we have to play Kansas City twice. I mean, honestly, the AFC West is not terrible. What's his name? The rookie in LA is doing pretty well. Last week he didn't do great, but those are winnable games. The Vegas Raiders are winnable games, but they're also playing pretty decently with their rookie running back, or their second year running back, Jacobs. Is he a second year?
Second year.
Yeah.
Here's what.
So where do we see the Broncos going from this win? Is this enough to give us motivation to get back on the train, or is this enough to give us motivation to get back to probably like the 10th pick? That's what okay. That's the motivation I want.
I love it. I say, and it's kind of far out to say that circle this game as the progress report game, but it's the Bills game for me. And that's my progress report game if we've got Drew Lock back, if we've got Noah Fant back, AJ Boye, like if we're reasonably healthy as we can be, as we have been, in this season, and we play well or beat the Bills, that to me, then our record it doesn't matter as much to me. Then our whatever playoff position we're in then doesn't matter to me. That will be to me, and that also depends on the Bills continuing to play as well as they're playing now. But that to me will be a better progress report than kind of what's our record going to be by this day, or are we going to be, are we mathematically eliminated?
I mean, that's thank you. I appreciate that you brought that up. Honestly, the Bills game is 10 games away. We still have a lot of football to play before that, but you're saying we can go in there 1 let's math. 9, 11, 12, 9, 10, 11. Not 1-12 going into that game. And I
said it was a little bit far away. I'm not saying 1-12, but like if we're like 4 or 5 wins by that point, but you go in there and you show really well or even beat the Bills.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Robert, it was a great weekend.
Right.
We won. The Raiders lost. I beat the auto draft team, unlike everybody else. My other two fantasy teams won. I was 5. The Air Force Falcons beat Navy. Suck it, Jared.
Wow,
5 for
I knew
5.
this was going to come up too. Can we just...
I have to say,
okay, but here's my thing.
Those
when I'm looking,
fire. Sorry, go ahead. Those were absolutely fucking disgustingly cool uniforms. You know it's true too, Darren. That's the worst thing. You know it was true. All right, go
You
ahead.
keep
But you
acting
lost
like
to
you're
that.
15 years old, like fire lit. You need to just stop. Not just. Also, those uniforms are cool, but when you threw for like 4 completions the entire
And
game.
that's all. That's how
this isn't
easy
the
it was
Navy.
to stomp you.
How many did they need, Jared?
Yeah.
Well, they
needed
ran it
4.
like they ran it
Actually,
like 80 times.
we won
It's a
40 to
triple
7.
option offense, Jared. That's what they do.
That's what they do. We won 40 to 7, so we didn't need to throw it any amount of times. I think if we showed up for the first quarter, we would have won.
It was
Anyway,
like watching the Browns. Go ahead.
it kind of was.
Yeah.
It kind of was.
Right.
Hey, Browns
did
are
you
doing
see
pretty
that
well right now.
game?
I'm pretty sure they're 3-1. So you can.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I'm saying they ran for like 300 yards against the Cowboys, and Baker Mayfield had 125 yards passing or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Insane. So here's what I'm looking for. Just for us to stay close in these games, I think we could steal 4 or 5 of them. Maybe not against like Kansas City, although that'd be phenomenal, right? But if we can just stay competitive with these guys, right? I'm just saying.
Hold on, stay with me. Hold on.
Stay with me.
Imagine
Yeah.
the first time we beat Kansas City in years.
Yeah.
Like when was the last time we beat Kansas City? It's been like 9 games, something like that.
I think it was
Is with
2015.
They're gonna sleep on us.
with
They're gonna
this
show up.
injury-prone team.
How fantastic would that be, though? I'm just saying, like, it's not going to
gonna
happen.
get Brett
It'd
Rippin.
be awesome if it did.
What if
Yeah.
they just come out there and get Brett Rippin? Oh my
Brett
God.
Rippin just let him go.
Yep.
And he just
Patrick
throws
Mahomes
for 300
got
yards.
He throws for 4
Yeah.
more picks, but it doesn't matter. The Broncos still put up 45. It's amazing.
Look, I think this game is going to give us the confidence to look. We can do it. We have the potential. We have, our team is beat up, but we can make it happen, right? So if we could steal 4 or 5 wins, end up going, at least 6 wins on the season, I mean, that'd be pretty good considering where we're at. But
Oof. Man, it's a bummer to be talking about it like that, but that's where we are.
that's where we are. But look,
We're in a rebuild phase. Like, look, and so here's the other thing too, and a lot of people didn't think about this. We have a second year in Drew Lock, right? A second year quarterback that we built a lot around him. A lot of young guys on defense that we picked up. A lot of good guys on defense. I think this is a rebuilding, and I think John Elway finally realized we're in a rebuilding phase, that we need to start looking young and look towards the future. And I know a lot of people aren't really out of that mindset of the Broncos being like great all the time, but after what's been 5 years since Super Bowl 50, we haven't done anything. I think that's where we're at, and we just have to look at it that way and go forward thinking about it that way.
I mean, just imagine if we had all our starters. Like,
That's
what were
different
we
too.
talking? Exactly. So you're talking about it's actually a good thing. You get these young guys much more experience than they would have had if we had all these starters, right? Really lean on them, get them that game time experience, and not just the experience, but hey, we need you, Tim Patrick. We need you, Jerry Jeudy, to step up. And then you get our starters back. Talk about the depth we're going to have and the amount of experience we have as this young of a team going into the future. So, yeah, it sucks right now. It really does. But when you're talking about a rebuilding team and not John Elway thinks we're a win now team, so we're going to go get Joe Flacco and think we can make it to the playoffs. No, we're actually a rebuilding team. You think about what it's going to look like in 2, 3, 4 years. That's what's exciting. It sucks now, though.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah, and it's gonna suck, for the rest of the season. But there'll be good moments mixed in too. There'll be surprises. It'll be interesting. This is a good
Like
question.
when we beat the Chiefs.
Something like that. Anyway, this is a good question. Thoughts on Williams and Darius Kilgo coming back, signed to the practice squad this week? A couple of Broncos defensive linemen. I love it. Go ahead, Jared.
I love it. Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. Obviously they're on the practice squad. They got to go through COVID protocols. They got to get through there. We have our defensive line has actually been doing a pretty decent job with the absence of Jarrell Casey and obviously Von Miller on the edge. But they've been doing a pretty good job. Shelby Harris has really stepped up and earned his money. I know earlier you commented, Robert, about the next person needs a paycheck. I agree. Shelby Harris is there, but I think getting these guys, these former Broncos back, I think it really, it shores up that defensive line depth that I think we need, because I think they're still pretty good players.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also saw Nigel Bradham get signed to the practice squad, a long time vet from Philadelphia at inside linebacker, which tells me that maybe Mark Barron is going to be a little longer than we thought
It's frustrating.
as far as his recovering.
Yeah.
we're just going to have to see how that goes. But Bradham has a history of playing well. So if he's a reserve guy, that's not the worst depth signing to have.
Yeah. Also, shout out to the athletic training staff of the Denver Broncos. I don't know who you are. I don't know your names. I don't know what you do, but you are so busy this year.
Yeah, for sure.
You have a lot on your plate right now, and I appreciate everything you do.
They're not getting paid
any slight chance that you're listening to this, we thank you.
Right.
What do you mean slight chance?
So much. Obviously,
they don't
all of the
listen to us?
Broncos training staff listens to us.
Listen,
Why
We're
not?
very
yes.
popular among the clubhouse in general. We're
Yeah.
we're on.
Wait, I was told that as soon as Broncos practice gets let out on Tuesdays, they all like, okay, let's go grab some dinner so we can make it home for Orange Weekly. That's
No, I heard this year in training camp, since the rest of the media wasn't there to get jealous, they actually just piped our stuff in place of music during training camp practices. Can't confirm or deny that because, again, we don't want the local media. There's a rivalry, obviously, with some of the other outlets. Well, I'm not going to name. I'm not, they do their thing and we do our thing, and I think we have
Orange Weekly goals, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Speaking of which, this is a really good time to plug us once again, guys. Like us, follow us, share us, retweet us. Go on iTunes and throw us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That helps our visibility so much, getting those reviews out there. Come on here, leave your comments and questions. We'll get to them every single week. Go to BroncosOrangeWeekly.com for all of our written content. We've got the pregame podcast. We got the postgame podcast. We've got Ragers coming at you every single week. Am I missing anything, fellas?
David, what are you doing on Sunday afternoon?
Sunday afternoon. Boy, Kevin, that is a fantastic question. You and I will be going to the fabulous Colorado Egg.
I feel like I thought you were pausing for a second because you forgot until you mentioned it.
Smooth.
No, I'm very smooth, Jared, and I would never forget because I'm a professional at this. Anyway, Kevin and I will be at the Colorado Cork and Keg in wonderful Castle Rock, Colorado. We're going to be calling that Patriots-Broncos game. It's going to be fantastic. They're going to have drink specials. They're going to have food specials. And more importantly, they're going to have Kevdan and I.
Yes.
And we're going to put the Lucky Puffball into action live, and it's going to be really, really fantastic, guys. We hope that you'll tune in or join us there in person.
Yep.
What's the temperature in Colorado right now?
Hot. It's like 80. Well, right now it's like,
okay,
but next week it's going to be like in the low 60s from here
give me
on
that.
out.
Give me some of that.
Then I can wear the puffball during the entire show and it would make sense.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, you're the founder of Team Puffball. You have
right.
to.
High summer doesn't matter. We're gonna, and when I say high summer, what I mean is, anyway, always Team Puffball. You always gotta represent. How long? Good God, we've gone over. We gotta get off the air.
Cool. Well,
Barb,
any
we
closing
wish you could
thoughts?
be there too. Yeah.
Closing thoughts.
We wish that Barb could be there too. That's what I. One of my closing thoughts.
Yes. Continue, David.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what this team can be once we're healthy. And if that's any point during the season, I don't want to jinx it because it hasn't been really at any point this season. But if we can manage to get enough of our guys back to say this is what we wanted it to look like, or this is really close to what we wanted it to look like, I want to see how that team performs. Because we've seen, even with guys out, pieces not being there, we've seen this team get close a couple of times, get run over once by one team, the Buccaneers, and then win a game against a really bad team. So, how are they going to do against better competition with their guy? And, it starts this week with Philip Lindsay. So we'll see how that piece adds into it and go from there. But that's what I'm really looking forward as the weeks go forward.
Yeah, I want to say really quickly before I want to say thanks to Robert. You've been fantastic. Barb, I know you're watching. Everyone who's been watching, but seriously, Rob, I think you're one of our new top fans. You're fantastic,
yes,
man. Appreciate the conversation. But yeah, over to you, Jared.
You're gonna have to tell me how to fix that. Do you want me sideways with the flag? We'll talk later. So my closing thoughts here are, we have to take this in steps, as this whole season's basically a preseason game. You got to treat this season like it's a 2020 season, and that nothing actually ever happened, and that nobody ever actually did anything. And you, as I'm looking through each one of these games, I'm looking at individual matchups each and every week, like every week's a preseason game, and I'm looking at individual players to see what they're doing against what they can do against what they have. You know, a lot of it's going to be quarterback play. Everyone's going to focus on quarterback play. Everyone's going to focus on, you know, people who get beat. Everyone's going to focus on, you know, the big, okay, we got stomped by the Kansas City Chiefs. Whatever the case is, I like to look at it as each and every week I look at the matchups and who's doing well and who we have going forward, because that's what we have to look forward to, is what we have going forward. Because I'm, you know, bleed orange and blue. We're going to go forward through this. We're going to be here now. We're going to be here in, you know, 12 weeks. We're going to be here next year. We're going to be here the year after. And that's what I look forward to. And I'm excited to be here for it. And I'm excited to be here for it with you guys. And again, yeah, like Kev said, thank you everybody who's been commenting. Robert, you've been great. I appreciate everything. Thanks for all the comments and all the questions. Definitely helps us out a lot. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, you guys are all fantastic. I guess, yeah, David, you did a great plug. You did the plugs really well. I'm not used to sitting back and listening to them, so you know, that was good. Yeah. But yeah, so look, just one game at a time, one quarter at a time, one play at a time. Just looking for those little glimmers of, you know, promise and genius that are going to be what is the foundation for this team moving forward. You think about it. You get this team a full off season. You get this team, their starters back, you know, and this can be a very completely different conversation, at least to some major degree. So I'm okay with it. This was going to be a painful year anyway. It wasn't going to be fantastic. We were already talking about maybe we're a fringe playoff team. Now we know that we're not mathematically eliminated, but you know, I think the focus on this year is more, let's get these, you know, young players, the young offense, a lot of experience, so that when we do get our starters back next year, they're even better for it across the board. So
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, with that being said, any other comments you guys have?
Just one.
Hey, week in, week out. Yep. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Cheers, guys.
What I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, if it's right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go.